Welcome back to the Marvel Podcast for Gifted Listeners. Apologies for such a long hiatus. Life just kind of got in the way, and it does take a while for me to actually make these episodes, as I am a one-man team, minus the cats. And see, Gamora wanted her credit. The idea for this episode came from a Facebook post from someone asking what Earth Wolverine and the X-Men was part of. And there was a comic that didn't understand what they were asking. And so I explained about the different Earth distinctions in the Marvel multiverse. So, as a quick, fun episode to get back into things, we're going to look at the larger Marvel multiverse and see how the Earth of different IPs are classified. I will be sticking to the official Marvel distinctions that are in the official Marvel handbook, such as the MCU, and not what Kevin Feige has said about the MCU. This will also serve as a small intro episode to some of the universes in Marvel that we will discuss in future episodes. There are over 1,000 different universe distinctions, so we're going to focus on some of the more mainstream ones. If there are some that you want to hear more about, just leave a comment, send an email, and I will gladly either make another episode for them, or I will mention it in a future episode. So, in Phase 1, we'll look at the different animated universes, and I'm pretty sure I covered every animated universe, just because there are a smaller amount of them. Phase 2, we'll look at live action, which again, I believe I've covered pretty much all of the live action universes. Phase 3 will be video games, which I only covered the main ones, or ones that I've personally played. And Phase 4, we'll look at some of the different comic universes. Again, the ones that actually had kind of like runs instead of just like the one-offs from What Ifs or mentioned briefly in some issues. And yeah, I hope that this will be fun and entertaining. And with that, let's dive into the animated universes. To start off Phase 1, we're going to look at the 90s animated series. And even though it may seem like they all took place in the same universe, there's actually two separate universes for a handful of the 90s shows. So Earth 92131 would be the Earth that features X-Men the Animated Series, X-Men 97, and Spider-Man the Animated Series. And even though we see characters such as Iron Man, Captain America, and others in this show that take place in their own TV shows, they are actually on a separate Earth from Earth 92131. There is a precursor to X-Men the Animated Series where there is a pilot made and is incorporated into just a group of Marvel shorts and little shows called Pride of the X-Men, and Pride was spelled Pryde, as in Kitty Pryde. And the animation style is very similar to X-Men the Animated Series. Like, honestly, if you stumble across it in, like, a YouTube video playlist, you wouldn't know that it was separate from the animated series, I feel. And that would be Earth 652975. Earth 534834 is the official distinction of the Earth that is home to the Iron Man animated series, the Incredible Hulk show, and the Fantastic Four show. And like I had said previously, even though the same voice actors were used for some of the characters between the first two universes, they are two separate universes. On Earth 751263 is where you'll find Spider-Man Unlimited, which takes place as kind of like a pseudo-sequel to Spider-Man the Animated Series. Like, a lot of people see it as a spiritual successor, but is not within the same universe. In the early 2000s, we had a show called The Avengers United They Stand, which took place on Earth 73078. And it would feature a new Avengers team consisting of the Scarlet Witch, Wasp, Ant-Man, Tigra, Wonder Man, Hawkeye, Vision, and the Falcon. The animated Spider-Woman show, which featured Jessica Drew, takes place on Earth 700459. If you were watching Cartoon Network in the mid-2000s, you would have seen the show Superhero Squad Show, where it was kind of like a chibi-style show, and it was mainly for kids. And that will take place on Earth 91119. In the 70s, there was a Fantastic Four cartoon that actually did not have the Human Torch in it because even though there was a popular rumor that it was for safety reasons, it was actually because the Human Torch was licensed to a different company. And this would take place on Earth 78909. A new shared universe of cartoons would be made in 2012, known as Earth 12041. And it was given that distinction because the first episode of the shows within that universe premiered on April 1st, 2012, so 12041. And as we go through this, you'll see that there are a good amount of universe distinctions that kind of use this numbering system. And on Earth 12041, that would include the shows Ultimate Spider-Man, Avengers Assemble, and Hulk and the Agents of Smash. The Fantastic Four show that aired on Nicktoons, Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes, would take place on Earth 135263. And some of these, there's not really a reason why they got those numbers. The newest Young Children's Animated Universe is Earth 21642, which is the Earth that contains Spidey and his amazing friends, Iron Man and his awesome friends, as well as Marvel's Avengers' mightiest friends. My nephew likes this, my friend's daughter likes this. It's apparently a really good intro to Marvel characters. This next one, which kind of led to this episode, is Earth 8096. And on this Earth, we actually have Wolverine the X-Men, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Hulk vs. Thor, Hulk vs. Wolverine, and Thor, Tales of Asgard. And from looking at all these animated shows, as far as I know, this is the only universe where shows premiered on two separate networks. That being Wolverine the X-Men premiered on Nicktoons, and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was on Disney XD. Probably one of the most popular Spider-Man shows behind Spider-Man the Animated Series is the Spectacular Spider-Man, and that takes place on Earth 26496. If we go to the 80s, we'll see Earth 8107, and that's home to Spider-Man, Spider-Man and his amazing friends, and the 1980s Incredible Hulk cartoon. The original Spider-Man cartoon, which we get the Spider-Man pointing meme from, takes place on Earth 6799. Another interesting shared universe is Earth 17628, and it's the home to 3 shows, or specials, that were Marvel's Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Avengers Black Panther's Quest. Iron Man Armored Adventures takes place on Earth 904913. It's an interesting show because it features a teenage Tony Stark, which, if you know Tony Stark is the drunk alcoholic, it's an interesting change of pace. Animation can be a little wonky if you watch it, and it might hurt your eyes a little bit, but honestly, it was a pretty good show, in my opinion, for what it was. And it had an awesome theme song. Oh, speaking of weird animated shows, there was the early 2000s Spider-Man show that was Spider-Man the New Animated Series, and it featured Neil Patrick Harris as the Webhead. And that would be Earth 760207. And if you didn't know this, Marvel actually has a few animes. And there are multiple separate Earths for the different animes. First one has the 4 main ones that I knew about. And that would be Wolverine, X-Men, Iron Man, and Blade. All of those animes take place on Earth 101001. Honestly, if you haven't seen those, I would check them out. They used to be on Netflix. I'm not sure where you can get them now. But yeah, they're worth a watch, honestly. Another anime universe is one where Hydra raised superpowered kids to believe that the Avengers were the villains, and those kids would eventually break out, learn the truth, and join the Avengers, and the Avengers would train them as the future Avengers. Hence, and that is the name of the show. And this takes place on Earth 17741. Another anime Earth is Earth 14042, which is an Earth where the Avengers get trapped into what are referred to as discs that were created by Iron Man, and they escape, and now the Avengers travel the world trying to find these discs. And even though the Silver Surfer cartoon is a Fantastic Four character and came out around the same time as the other Fantastic Four show, it is on its own distinct Earth, known as Earth 634962. And then lastly, the show that I actually have been watching while I've been working on this is X-Men Evolution. Its official distinction is Earth 11052, but in the show's Bible, it's referred to as Earth 3110. Like I said, we're sticking with the official distinction, so we're going with 11052. Did any of those universes being shared surprise you? Because honestly, the Wolverine, the X-Men, and Earth's Mightiest Heroes did surprise me, and honestly, I think that's cool. So now let's move into Phase 2 and look at live action. Pretty much everything is its own universe. There isn't really any surprise shared universes in this one, but it's still nice to kind of look at all the different distinctions. And with this, there is all these different distinctions, but I think after Secret Wars, we may kind of get them all folded into one universe, similar to what they did with the, did with the comics and the Secret Wars in the comics. To start off, we have the MCU, the longest running live-action shared universe in Marvel, and its official categorization is Earth 199999. And like I had said, that's its official distinction within the Marvel Handbook. Even though its universe takes its name 616, it is not 616, since 616 is the main distinction for the main Marvel universe. The Raimi Spider-Man movies, starring Tobey Maguire, take place on Earth 96283. The Webb Spider-Man movies take place on Earth 1207203. And those are for... I know the Webb one was... The number for that Earth was taken from when it was officially announced. The rest of the Sony Spider-Man universe, which includes the Venom movies, Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven, the universe everyone wishes would stop, and I'm pretty sure it is finally over, is Earth 688B. The original X-Men movies, X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Futures Past, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and The Wolverine all take place on Earth 10005. And then there is the revised Earth 10005, which is a revised history of Earth that is shifted after the events of Days of Futures Past, and that also technically includes Days of Future Past, Dark Phoenix, New Mutants, the Deadpool movies, Logan, and Apocalypse. The Legion television show that premiered on FX, that focused on mutants, takes place on Earth 17040. Another mutant-focused show, known as The Gifted, takes place on Earth 17372. If you know anything about your Fantastic Four movie lore, you know there is an unreleased 1994 movie that Honestly, doesn't look terrible. I do plan on watching it one day, and we will probably do either a mini episode or like just a regular episode of that. And that, of course, would be Earth 94000, which is funny because, 1994. The first two Fantastic Four movies, Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, take place on Earth 121698. Fan Four Stick, the reboot of Fantastic Four, takes place on Earth 15866. I don't know if anybody actually liked that movie. I liked it on the first watching, but then going back, it was not as great. Honestly, I would love to see Miles Teller return as Mr. Fantastic and be the Maker in the upcoming Avengers movies. Just, I feel the way they categorize that read would work very well for that characterization of him. But let me know what you think in the comments. Fantastic Four First Steps, even though it is an MCU movie, it does take place on Earth 828, which I believe they stayed a few times throughout the movie. Our two Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies, which I unapologetically like the first one, take place on Earth 121347. The Daredevil and Elektra movie take place in a shared Earth, since, it's one's a spin-off of the other. And those would be Earth 701306. The Blade trilogy and its spin-off shows, even though they don't feature Wesley Snipes, take place on the same Earth, and that would be Earth 26320. The live-action Incredible Hulk show, starring Lou Ferrigno, takes place on Earth 400005. A lot of zeros. Sometimes you gotta count them. One of Marvel's first live-action television shows, the Spider-Man show in Japan, takes place on Earth 730911. And I think I've mentioned this before. If not, I definitely will when I talk about the show. Is that this show would give Toei, the parent company, the inspiration for Super Sentai. And if you don't know what Super Sentai is, you probably know its more popular American television show known as Power Rangers. And being a Power Rangers fan and a Spider-Man fan, it's pretty cool to learn that Spider-Man led to the creation of Power Rangers. Earth 687064 is the first live-action Captain America movie and its sequel. Honestly, I thought they were great for their time. The effects were a little goofy, but it was the 90s. But, Captain America the First Avenger is definitely a better film. Now that I've covered all of the live-action universes that I can think of, if I miss one, please let me know. Let's look at video games. And a handful of these, I actually thought they would take place on the same universes as, the movies they were based off of. But most of them are actually going to be separate universes because of slight differences that the games make. This section is going to be very Spider-Man heavy because Spider-Man is and probably will be Marvel's most popular IP. So there's a lot of video games about him. I did try to make sure this wasn't all about Spider-Man games. And so to begin, let's start with the Insomniac universe. And this is Universe 1048. This will include Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Miles Morales, the upcoming Wolverine game, and the anticipated third Spider-Man game. I think there's plans to have other video games within this universe, but those are the only ones that have been confirmed or have come out. The 2020 Avengers game that a lot of people kind of didn't like, which is on my list of games to play eventually, takes place on Earth 38264. And even though it's a similar art style, the Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out shortly after has its own distinct Earth of 21178. If you've ever played the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, which I think, are a great Marvel Universe game. They take place on Earth 6109. And they have a very similar timeline to 616, including M-Day and Civil War. There are a pair of X-Men games called X-Men Legends, and those take place on Earth 7964. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions takes place on Earth 10955, and I believe this is one of the first looks at the Spider-Verse, since this game came out in 2012, and we saw Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Man 2099, who would later both be seen in the Spider-Verse comic events and movies. The Spider-Man Web of Shadows takes place on Earth 81074, and the original Spider-Man game that came out on Atari 2600, which actually had a live-action trailer for it, takes place on Earth 82171. The Marvel vs. Capcom games actually have their own Earth, and on this Earth, both of the Capcom characters and Marvel characters actually live simultaneously together. And that would be Earth 30847. One of my all-time favorite Marvel games, which is one I'm definitely going to be covering in the future, is Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects, or Nemesis I've heard it being called, but I say Nemesis. And this takes place on Earth 50701. And this introduced a handful of new characters that would be human mutates that were mutated through experimentation. Honestly, this game has a lot of lore, and I really am going to do an episode on it. Next up, we have Earth 21913, which is home to the Spider-Man games that take place in the Raimiverse. And like I said at the top of this phase, the reason it's a different distinction is because there's a few villains and storylines that pop up that were not in the movies. Earth 58166 would be the universe of the Fantastic Four tie-in video games. And similarly, they do not have the same universe because different events happen in the games. The Deadpool video game that came out would take place on Earth 13625. The Lego Marvel video games take place on Earth 13122. And then probably the newest and most popular Marvel video game, Marvel Rivals, actually does not have a Earth distinction yet because it's so new and hasn't been officially logged into Marvel's official multiversal distinction. I imagine once we get the newest edition of the official Marvel Handbook, we will get that official Marvel distinction. And lastly, Earth 16 is where the mobile game Contest of Champions takes place. You know, the one that you'll constantly get ads for. Which, I don't have an ad. I'm not paid to do this yet. But, hey, people who make Marvel Contest Champions, hit me up. And now that we've had a brief look at the different video game universes, let's look into some of the more unique comic multiverses. Like I said, this section I'm going to focus on ones that either I find interesting or had longer storylines. Because if I tried to cover literally every single Earth in the Marvel multiverse, it would just be probably an hour of me reading numbers to you guys. And honestly, I don't think that makes great content. So we're going to start with Earth 1610, which is the original Ultimate Universe, which is where Miles Morales originally came from, and it's where the early MCU took heavy influence from. One of the biggest ones being Nick Fury being Samuel L. Jackson. Of course, we have to mention 616 again, as is the main universal distinction of Marvel Comics and the main continuity. There's Earth 001, which is the Earth where the gods that created the Web of Life and Destiny, and thus the multiverse, live. And that's why it's 001. Earth 65 is home to Spider-Gwen, and this Earth has, obviously the changes from 616, such as Gwen Stacy being bit by the spider, and Peter dying. And also, the one I find probably most interesting is that Matt Murdock is the Kingpin of New York. There's Earth 267, which is one where Kang succeeded in killing the Avengers. Earth 311 is an alternate reality where the heroes wake up in 1602 and live and work around Queen Elizabeth I. There is an Earth where the Nazis won World War II, and that would be Earth 597. Earth 928 is the Earth of 2099. This is where Miguel O'Hara comes from, and I do plan to do an entire episode on 2099. It's been one that I've been interested in since I first got a set of comic book cards that had a handful of the 2099 characters, mainly the ones who had premiered at that time. The Pet Avengers are from Earth 97161, and that's the Earth that Throg, or Frog Thor, comes from. And one where Lockjaw the dog and Lockheed the dragon are part of an Avengers team of pets. Earth 2149 is the Earth that is home to Marvel Zombies, which is an episode that I will be releasing around Halloween time. Earth 21677 is the Earth that Fantastic Four life story takes place on, which is an Earth where there isn't a sliding timeline. It starts in the 60s, and every issue is a different decade, and we actually get to see the heroes grow and age. I actually use this comic as inspiration for the speech for the intro to my buddy's wedding that I officiated. Shout out to Luis. I know he's a listener, so that's why I'm shouting him out. Similarly, Earth 19529 is Spider-Man: The Life Story, which is honestly one of my favorite Spider-Man stories that we got in recent memory. Same deal, starts in the 60s, every issue is a decade, and we actually get to see Peter grow and have a family and learn from his mistakes. And I'm not going to spoil how it ends, but honestly, it ends pretty satisfying. If you listen to the episode, wait, that was a Marvel comic, you'll know that Doctor Who has his own Marvel comic, and that would be Earth 5556. And the last Earth I felt I should be in this section, because it really doesn't fall anywhere else, and is like a distinction, is Earth 1218, which is our reality, which has been brought up a few times, like throughout the Marvel Comics history. And I think it's fascinating that we have our own distinction within the wider Marvel multiverse. And like I said, I'm just going to keep that section brief, because I plan to cover a bunch of these multiverses in their own episodes. And again, there are literal hundreds of comic Earths. Some from one-offs, some briefly mentioned, some literally we only know because of Spider-Verse, and they just gave it a number. Like I said, if there's any you'd like to hear about, leave a comment, join the Discord, send an email, something, because I will gladly go over that. But now let's look at the top 5 things that we have learned in today's episode. Number 1, the Marvel multiverse is wide and expansive, and there are hundreds, even thousands of Earth distinctions. Number 2, video game tie-ins to movies don't always share the same Earth distinction because there are slight differences from the story of the movie versus the story of the video game, even though it features all the same characters, even same voice actors. Number 3, Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes and Wolverine and the X-Men take place on the same Earth, even though they aired on separate networks. Number 4, even though Kevin Feige has said that the MCU is Earth 616, its official distinction in the Marvel Handbook is Earth 199999. And number 5, the reality that we live in has its own Earth distinction, and that is Earth 1218. Thank you for listening to this newest episode of the Marvel Podcast for gifted listeners. If you didn't know about the Marvel Earth distinctions before, now I hope you have a good introduction to the wider Marvel multiverse. And like I had said, if there's any Earths that you are interested in learning about, leave a comment, or send an email, and which will be listed in this next part. Please like, comment, and subscribe however you listen. I'm excited to get back into this and put out more great content for you all. This episode was written, recorded, and edited by myself, James Basinski. Intro music sourced from freesound.org. You can find us on Instagram at TMPFGL, TikTok at TMPFGL, YouTube at The Marvel Podcast for Gifted Listeners, and you can email us at tmpfgl@gmail.com. Please subscribe and rate the show wherever you listen. And until next time, Gifted Listeners, thank you for listening, and Excelsior!